In Armored Core 6, you're supposed to get hit. The game is a bullet hell in its hardest moments, and while there is a dodge button, it doesn't grant any invincibility frames. There are shields, but they can't block everything. So, can you beat Armored Core 6 without taking damage? I'm gonna try. So, I'll be using the checkpoint system for this playthrough. What that means is that if I take damage, I will always cancel that attempt. But I won't restart the whole mission or the whole game, I'll just go back and load my most recent checkpoint. This way, I won't be able to progress in the game unless I take no damage, but at least I won't lose my mind by restarting the entire mission or game whenever I get hit. My goal is to prove if this is even possible, and by the end of the video, I think you'll know. So, the start of Illegal Entry, the first mission, is pretty easy. It's a tutorial, after all. That said, I did almost just get shot there, and just looking at these projectiles, you might start realizing why this is going to be extremely difficult. The AC that you use in this first mission is preset. We can't customize it to make our run any easier. We have an assault rifle, missiles, and a blade. The blade is definitely a liability, but if you don't hesitate, it can be good. That was close, but let's keep going.
I'm picking up signals from AC Rex. Follow the markers.
So, there are 3 AC Rex in this city amidst all the enemies, and I need to attack from stealth wherever possible.
Unidentified AC! Return fire!
Not gonna lie, I don't have to go this way. It would be way safer to go around the outskirts of the city and sort of avoid combat entirely, but I felt like I had to embrace the fact that I was gonna be fighting. I can't shy away from combat. There's gonna be a lot of situations where I have to fight, so might as well practice. One strategy you see me do a lot is this, where I shoot the missiles, hide, wait for them to reload, wait for the energy to come back, shoot another salvo, go down again. This sort of peeking strategy is really the optimal way to play a lot of fights. Truthfully though, the only real challenge for this checkpoint is clearing this enemy camp, where there's a ton of enemies, but luckily if you approach it from behind, you can easily peek them all with your missiles and take them out that way. But I have no patience, so I almost get hit. A lot of the time when I played, it came down to that famous quote from Sekiro, which is like, hesitate and you lose. You can't doubt yourself, you can't always play passive because you're going to have to perform a lot of the time, so just get in there, don't hesitate, try to take them out as fast as you can.
I've picked up one more Rec 621. Transmitting marker. Go and check it out. That's it. Try accessing the Rec.
So, I really want to talk about this pilot and this AC that we're pillaging a license from here. If you look closely, you'll realize that this AC is exactly the same one that was fighting in the original reveal trailer of Armored Core 6. As you can see here, their call sign is Raven, which is obviously a really nostalgic word for a lot of Armored Core fans, so I'm really curious to find out who Raven was. But we need their license, because it's illegal to operate on Rubicon without one. I mismanage my energy here and I get hit, so I reload the checkpoint and try again, and again, and again. I tried finding safe places to hide and fire, but there were none. I tried to attack it from above, and then its rotor blades just hit me instead. It's so easy for this boss to get away from you, it's so easy for it to cut you down with machine gun fire, but with perfect use of the assault boost and quick boosts and your blade and good energy management, you can do it without taking a hit.
Confirmed. Heavy combat helicopter is down. That's all for our work here today, 621. Here's the call sign from that license you picked up. Raven. That's your new name here on Rubicon.
So, at this early stage in the game, we don't have access to the parts shop, but I did pre-order the game, so I get the Melander parts. They're pretty much better in every way, although they are a bit heavier, but that doesn't matter because we can bear the weight. And then you gotta customize your AC. I even came up with like a backstory for mine, so since this is a no-hit run, I made it so that I think my pilot never wants to get hit. He never wants his AC to get dirty. He's just got this perfect, golden, shiny AC, and he'll restart from every checkpoint if that means keeping the AC safe. I even made a fancy logo. Not many people know this, but Armored Core is actually a in-depth logo creator with just like a mech shooter tacked onto it. Last thing I do, I grab the Ludlow machine gun from completing training. This is one of my favorite weapons, so I take it with me into Grid 135.
Commence mission.
In this mission, Balaam has tasked us with striking a blow to their rival corporation, which is Archivus. And after a few attempts, I make it through the mission without a single... God damn it. This happened right at the end of the mission too, and things tend to get so tense towards the end of each attempt, because you know you're so close to doing it. Overall though, I don't know what I'm complaining about, because this took me about 5 attempts, which is just nothing compared to what was to come. What's crazy is I just noticed that I get hit here, if you look really carefully, but it ricochets and it does no damage. When setting up this run, I did a lot of testing to see if armor could play a part in completely negating damage, like if it's at range and if the projectile's not doing much damage. I could never get it to do no damage, so that's really surprising to me. I think it's because I might have been assault boosting, and assault boosting actually gives you reduced impact, so maybe that's why it ricocheted to that degree. Anyway, I mean, I didn't take damage, so still counts. I use this pillar to sort of block one enemy while I take out the other, and then Pulse Blade finishes the job. Back at the garage, we now have access to the parts shop, so my first priority is just a second missile launcher for my back. Just filling that 4th weapon slot is instantly a huge damage upgrade. I also hop into training to get a linear rifle, which I take into the next mission. So this mission sucked. For me. I mean, that makes it great entertainment for you, I guess, which is half the reason I make these videos, and knowing that I'm going to put this on YouTube definitely makes it easier to suffer through these moments, but eventually I get it. I'm going to show you my full, unedited run, and I'm also going to splice in examples of why it gets so difficult. So I'm dual-wielding these linear rifles, which is a lot of input to sort of mash those triggers, but the reason they're great is this, the ability to snipe enemies from a really, really long distance. You'll see later, I get even longer shots than that. My main concern with these weapons was that they're not automatic. You can't just hold down the triggers, you have to tap them individually, which I was worried would cause me to play worse, but it worked.
Don't give them another inch. We have to defend the artillery.
So in this mission, we're taking out the Rubicon Liberation Front, who have sort of set up all their artillery in this city, and yep, there's the artillery. This section is brutal. A lot of the time, that artillery can just follow you, so that's why I'm sort of weaving through the buildings here. Like, look at that. Those avoided buildings pretty well, and I got hit here a lot. I'll show you some examples. It took me a really long time to find an optimal route through the city. You can see now I'm just sort of floundering, but eventually I found a path that worked, and it was this one. But here, there's missiles following me, so it's still not perfect. You can hear them coming behind you. And sometimes they pre-fire them, which is fun. And sometimes I can't even tell what hit me. Can you? But the part that hurt the most was this. I made it to the final artillery section and mismanaged my energy. Couldn't dodge. Rage quit pretty fast. That was rough. Anyway, back to my actual successful run. This section, it's another example where you just have to go for it. Like, you have to get in there, strafe, never stop moving, and just believe you won't get hit. Maybe there's a better way of doing this, maybe there's a safer way, but the safer way takes more time, and then all of that gets undone when you get hit anyway. And I'm stubborn, so a lot of the time I won't give up until I'm successful. And usually that's a good thing, you know, but the bad part of that is that sometimes I'll find a route and I'll just be like, no, I can do this, this is possible, when I really should just take a step back and reevaluate things. Like, eventually I discovered, by, you know, thinking a little bit, that I could just manually aim and take out the artillery installations like this with way more safety. So don't sleep on manual aiming, especially if you have a long-range linear rifle. But this is the last camp, and I panic here because I see the missiles, see how many times I dodge. It's funny how you play worse when the stakes are high, but this time I come out on top.
Confirmed. All targets destroyed. That's it for this job, 621. Return to base.
Back in the garage, we have enough credits for a new generator, a new FCS, and some new boosters as well. These are pretty much just straight upgrades. I don't think there's any real reason not to get them, especially since we can bear the weight. I also pick up a Darfang bazooka, which is like one of my favorite weapons. What I'm doing now is taking out that helicopter from a really high point because the bazooka's projectile is self-propelled. It has no damage fall off at range, so if something's standing still, you know, like a lot of the transport helicopters are in this mission, it's a great choice. And that's also why I love this run, because making these early missions difficult actually forced me to think about parts and building my AC in a unique way, and it really made that matter. Whereas, you know, for most people's playthrough, this will be easy. Like, you won't even need a second thought for a lot of this stuff. Another thing the difficulty makes you do is explore different parts of the mission. Like, I would have never gone this way originally. You can just get by, following the waypoints, making a beeline towards the waypoints, but it's often not the best or the most interesting way to go. So, by approaching from behind here, we can get to this high point where we can just snipe all of the helicopters with the bazooka pretty safely. That tetrapod in the distance, sniping us, that's an optional objective in this mission. You don't have to do it. I tried, but it was really hard. But it's still a threat, as you can see. That was so close. Yeah, I tried to take that thing out with no hit, but I'm gonna have my fill of fighting tetrapods later on, so I decided not to go for that.
Return to base. Commence mission.
The fifth mission I attempt is also the hardest up to this point. But what you're actually seeing now is old footage. It's footage of me attempting this mission before I even started my official run-through. I tried to do this with no hits because I wanted to see if this run was even possible, and I figured this was a pretty good test of that. So I did it with this AC, which I'd upgraded to have all of the fastest, lightest parts and the best missiles I could afford. I eventually overcame this and realized the run was possible, but when I did my actual playthrough, I realized I didn't want to just, like, replay missions and get tons of credits and spend all my money on the fastest parts. I wanted to actually never replay missions and see if this challenge was achievable, you know, without replaying missions and just in one playthrough. So I couldn't afford all the fastest parts, so I'm not moving fast enough to avoid a lot of his attacks. That means you have to find more creative ways of taking out this AC, like one strategy that works is this, where you sort of peek around a corner, shoot your missiles, get back, and try it again. But this is risky, because if you get close to him, that burst rifle that he has can track really well, and it's a huge threat, and I got so close to getting hit there. But I wanted to stay close because of that. I saw his impact gauge filling up, so I wanted to see if I could capitalize on that. Staying at range is safer, but you're not going to do much damage that way, and chances are you'll get hit by a stray bullet, so you kind of have to risk it. You also have to watch out for these homing missiles, which make dodging awkward if you run into any terrain. But after 21 attempts, I get it.
I just wanted a call sign of my own.
Next up, attack Gallia Dam. This was probably the easiest mission in the challenge, thanks to my teammates.
Island Group AC Squad Red Guns reporting for duty. Commence mission. Attack! Get in there, you maggots!
Great, an independent merc. Who's the wise guy who decided the Red Gun should be taking care of some freelancer?
Who gives a shit? We'll handle this mission ourselves.
You know, this mission is so easy that I actually think you could let your teammates handle it themselves. It was also easy without taking a hit. The hardest part is what you're seeing now, but apart from that, you just take out the dam installations and you're done. You don't even have to fight the AC at the end, really. Probably the hardest thing in this mission is this optional objective off to the right here. There's a tetrapod that has a combat log, so this is worth replaying the mission and getting if you missed it. But again, I don't think anyone will really have a hard time with this mission, especially since the checkpoint system exists, and I feel like this is a good time to bring up difficulty. So I'm playing this before release. I don't know how hard people will find this game. You know, it's hard to get a sense of difficulty when you don't have the social context surrounding it. I can tell that they made a very conscious decision to make the early missions extremely forgiving. Like, even if you fail, checkpoints are there for you, and really I don't think there's a way to fail these missions if you're halfway competent at the game. Where difficulty really exists in this game, and it's a lot of fun, is in the boss fights, and also in S-ranking the missions if you want to replay them that way. Both of those things are challenging and very satisfying, requiring good proficiency in the garage and in the gameplay as well. I think my main concern so far, and I haven't played that much of the game, but my main concern is that these little fights with smaller enemies don't seem difficult at all. That's very different from the approach they had in previous Armored Core games, where every bit of damage that you took from minor enemies mattered a lot. But in this game, because of the healing system and the checkpoint system, taking damage from little enemies doesn't really matter that much, and it's the boss fights where they've expended most of their sort of design space for this game. Again, I've only completed Chapter 2, so this could change. I could be pleasantly surprised by enemy difficulty very soon, but so far there's a very conscious effort to sort of ease newcomers into the game by making a lot of the minor encounters in this game very forgiving. So you might have noticed in the last mission I had a new leg part equipped. I'm slowly getting more credits, so I'm slowly getting all of the lightweight parts I can. One cool thing about frame parts in this game is that you can often really figure them out quickly based on who makes the part. For example, a company called Schneider makes these aerodynamic, lightweight, frail parts that make you move really quickly, so I'm always going to get their parts at this early stage in the game, and that's important, especially in this mission where speed can help you evade the laser that just got shot at me. That thing, you can avoid it pretty easily with most builds, I think, but it will depend on your boosters and your speed. For example, I've tried doing this strategy where I assault boost to the left with different boosters, and it didn't evade it, so, you know, the strength of your assault boost spec can matter a lot in this mission, I would say.
Take out one of its legs and bring it to a halt.
One thing I've also been doing is doing each mission with a different set of weapons, and the ones I chose for this mission are these. These are single-shot burst rifles, and I didn't like them before this mission, and I still don't like them. They're my least favorite weapon in the early stage of the game, I think. These are tricky. Like the linear rifle, you have to single fire each shot, which is very input intensive, and if you charge it up and do the triple burst, your AC stands still while you fire, which is a huge liability. At least with biped legs. If you use tank treads or tetrapod legs, then you won't stand still. You can move while firing the triple burst, which is probably a lot better than the way I'm using them.
We can't take any chances. Double the rear.
I love this part of the mission. You feel like such a threat. They just dismantled half of the Strider just to get rid of you, but it didn't work.
Remember, we fight for the coral. Defend the sub-generator.
In terms of speedrunning this, I think this is the fastest way to do it. You know, start on the left side, go underneath, come back up the other side, and then disable the generator on top last. The reason I do the generator on top last is because that's the one that's actually in direct firing line of the eye, but if you do that one last, it stuns the eye as the generators go offline, so you can use that moment to approach it instead.
The eye's shield is offline. Head to the front segment and hit the target. Now you've got the target in your sights. Time to finish this 621.
There's a couple of good ways to take this thing out. You can do what I'm doing if you want a bit of risk and sort of strafe around it and try to avoid it and maintain your speed in a circular direction, or you can just hang back, find a good platform and sort of peek it with long-range weaponry.
Sir, no response from the eye.
Man, I will never get sick of just watching this thing explode. It's so good.
Aidan, governing the planet. Combined with Robocop.
See that 621? The Strider's blowing itself up. A fitting end for something built to fail.
With the Strider defeated, you should have enough credits to pretty much buy out a full set of new parts in the shop. What's more, if you complete Training 3, you get a booster, a FCS, and a generator that are amazing upgrades. This can make for some really fun builds going into Operation Wallclimber.
Commence mission. We'll start by clearing the way for Arquebus. Take out the Gatling cannons protecting the city, and the BAWS Tetrapod MT further in.
But pretty much whatever build you have, I'm pretty sure this route in the mission is the optimal one. There's very little risk here.
You'll never climb the wall, Corporation Dog! Cold! Abide with Rubicon!
So the build I'm using for this mission is pretty much perfectly designed to counter it. The Alula booster lets us move at a way higher default speed, and the shotguns. It's so fun firing the shotguns in this game, oh my god. And then on my back I have double vertical missile launchers, which are just so good in this mission. They completely hard counter a lot of the enemies, as you'll see. That's a really important thing to think about in Armored Core, is not just the damage that your missiles do, but the trajectory they take. Vertical missiles, for example, amazing outdoors, not great inside. Also, vertical missiles might miss your enemy, but if they're slow moving, they'll get hit by the full salvo, as you see here, and that's the strategy I use. Build up their impact with the missiles, go in safely with the shotguns, get as much damage as you can, then back off and repeat the process.
BAWS Tetrapod MT eliminated. That significantly reduces the threat in the city.
When you play this mission, take the time to take out all of these artillery installations. This nets you a ton of credits at no risk, and there's a checkpoint coming up soon anyway, so it's going to save all of that progress from taking them out. There's even a little secret hidden thing if you go all the way to the right and look around the platform. Also kind of secret is this entrance where you get to attack from above.
Do you read me? This is V4 Rusty. You're fast. Guess you're sharper than they'd say. I'll have to step up my own game. A numbered Vesper. He's an elite. But remember, even Balaam couldn't crack the wall. Don't count on him too much.
Another little tip. Notice how in a lot of my fights I don't hard lock on. That's mostly because it gives me better free movement and lets me choose my targets more specifically, but it's also because we've recently discovered and had confirmation that not using target assist makes your tracking more accurate, as in the little reticle tracks your enemies and makes sure more of your attacks will land. And I love that this is in the game so much, because when hardlock was revealed to be a thing, the Armored Core purist in me kind of died a little bit, because that's not how the older games played. You know, you had to manually aim and outmaneuver, and that was a big part of the combat. But now there's sort of the best of both worlds. New players will love that target assist is a thing. It will make the game much more accessible to them. However, there is actually incentive not to hardlock at all times, you know? The skill cap of the game is elevated so much by better aiming being a thing when you're not hard locked. So I'm really happy with how this worked out in the end.
Interesting. You ready to climb the wall?
So the Juggernaut was pretty tough. It has a surprising amount of attacks that can hit you. The first one I had to learn how to avoid were the mines that it ejects from behind. Yeah, those got me killed a lot, especially because they remain on the ground for a really long time, so forget about that, and you're dead. Oh, and then there's these curving missiles which are hard to see. Not hard to avoid, but they can catch you off guard. Like, look at this clip. Try to figure out where the missiles are going to come from. And there they are. It's so hard to notice when it shoots them. Oh, and if I ever found myself at this distance, I was just in so much trouble. Machine gun fire will pretty much always get you. The trick really was to assault boost in, but you really have to do it at an angle or you get hit. But yeah, eventually I figured it all out, got my spacing perfect, and I have to say the vertical missiles in this fight are just perfect. The Juggernaut has a weak spot on top, so they are just guaranteed stagger damage every time, which makes this fight way easier. And it's part of what makes this game cool, you know? You can brute force the game with one setup, I'm sure, but the player who invests time in learning about different parts and customizing their AC will just have a way better time of everything. Anyway, this is the only sketchy part of my fight, where I have to avoid all of that, and after this, it's pretty much GG. Back at the garage, it's time for a new build, because after Operation Wallclimber, you unlock these, the reverse joint legs, which will give us way more distance when we jump and dodge, which is obviously very good. I've also equipped the laser handgun that I got from doing training. You can charge it up if you want to unload a lot of damage, or you can manually fire it. I've also got plasma missiles, which do huge AoE damage, and ultimately this build is phenomenal. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. Almost got hit there, if you saw that missile. So this mission is unique in that there are these wrecks that you have to scan, and you have to find at least 5 of them and then survive until the timer runs out, or you can find all of them and potentially end the mission even earlier. So I'll show you how to find all of them. Basically, why we're scanning these logs is because we're investigating who Rusty is. Rusty was the pilot that helped you in the last mission, and this is the route he took when he infiltrated the wall, and these are all the wrecks that he left in his wake. A lot of them very interesting from a lore point of view, and we'll definitely talk about them a bit later. When you play though, make sure you loot this one coming right up, because it triggers this fight.
You, AC pilot. You're no comrade of ours, are you? Wait, you killed them all!
A Liberation Front survivor. It'll just hold us up if you engage her. The mission comes before everything else.
Shameless. Corporate dog! Go! Leave Rubicon alone! Unidentified AC.
Open fire! Kill the intruder!
This wreck that we're about to scan gives us a little bit more information on the AC pilot that just attacked us. So apparently her name was Little Z. She's the Liberation Front's little sister, apparently, but she wasn't around to save them when Rusty came calling. But she is here now. Like, literally, she's in this fight. I was so confused. I was like, why isn't this MT dying? But it's her. She followed me all the way when I thought she would de-aggro, but she didn't. So watch as I stressfully try to scan this wreck without her killing me. Luckily, in retrospect, she only really seems to have a bazooka, so she's easy to dodge compared to all the other ACs with kinetic weaponry. But I've never wanted a faster scan speed more, which is actually something you can unlock in the OS tuning upgrade. I never thought I would need it, but this is a pretty good reason to. For now, I get the hell out of there, but she's still following me, which makes the next section really stressful. I have to say I love her lore and her character though. You can actually fight her in the arena simulator, and there you can learn more about her. So it reads, she's a warrior of the Rubicon Liberation Front. As an infant, Ziyi was taken to Rubicon by her parents, who, tempted by the promise of riches from coral mining, sought to make an illegal entry to the planet. But they crash-landed, and only Ziyi survived. She came under the guardianship of Uncle Flatwell of the Rubicon Liberation Front, and the core of an AC was the young orphan's cradle as she grew up to become a coral warrior. So I love her story, and I love that it really suits what she's doing right now, which is like pursuing me to the ends of the earth in order to kill me, because as she mentioned earlier, she thinks you're responsible for what happened here, basically. Anyway, this is the last wreck, and she comes close to me and does this little standoff, but she's too late. She doesn't fire her bazooka.
Looks like you found pay dirt 61. We've still got time, and we've chewed down every promising wreck. That's it for this job, 621. Return to base.
So looking back, she wasn't a threat. I should have just fought her initially. However, most AC fights are a threat. Which brings me to the next issue for this run, which was that I had to enter the arena.
Welcome to the Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program. First subject AC, Mad Stomp. Call sign, Invincible Rummy.
Man, I love Rummy. I think he's the funniest character I've met so far. If you see him in Chapter 2, you'll know what I mean. Anyway, the reason I need to complete the arena is because the arena gives you OST chips, and OST chips can be used to unlock expansions, and a couple of those expansions give you shields that can be used to negate a tiny bit of damage. But to unlock those, I needed at least 3 OST chips, which meant I had to beat at least 2 opponents in the arena. And Rummy was easy. He's got a chainsaw and a shotgun, which are not threatening, really. It's the next fight that was tough. Index Dunham. He has a bazooka, not an issue. He has missiles, which can be an issue. And he has a burst machine gun, which is a big issue. I spent more time trying to beat this AC than anything else to this point. By attempt 8, I was trying to use my pulse blade to combo him down. It was high risk and high reward, but no matter what combination of weapons I tried, I couldn't find a reliable way to stun lock him indefinitely. On my 18th attempt, I equipped dual machine guns and tried to outdo his FCS tracking at close range, but that didn't work. By my 32nd attempt, I was using dual shotguns in order to dash out from cover and deal damage to him and then dash back away, but because I wasn't circle strafing, I was getting hit by the missiles a lot. And you know I must have lost all hope around the 40th attempt, because it's at this point I tried to cheese it with a quadruped hovering at the edge of the arena, but there was no real hope there as I couldn't find a way to achieve sustained flight. But it was on attempt 56 that I realized the answer had been with me since Mission 1, the Turner. This appropriately named assault rifle allowed me to stay at a mid-range where I was pretty safe from getting hit as long as I maintained speed by boosting at the right intervals. This, plus making sure that I stayed around the 200-meter mark, meant that it was possible to overcome him eventually. I want to say this strategy is so similar to the way that I overcame so many fights in previous Armored Core games, and it's cool to see that it's still intact. Finally, I could go to the OST screen and unlock this, Pulse Armor. This gives me a barrier that absorbs a pretty small amount of damage, but in a challenge like this, that's huge. But it still wasn't enough to beat this guy, and there was no way I was avoiding his missiles, so I moved on to Mission 10.
Some advice before you go, 621. Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, no, so I knew exactly what to expect. The enemies in this level are invisible, so you need a head part that has a really long-range scan ability to reveal them. In addition, they're extremely weak to explosive weaponry, so I wanted to take that into account too. This mission is given to you by the Rubicon Liberation Front, who are enlisting you in order to investigate this BAWS arsenal. BAWS are basically the biggest weapons manufacturer in all of Rubicon, and they sell to everyone. So the Rubicon Liberation Front is alarmed that their facility seems to have gone silent overnight. And when you arrive, there really is nothing here, or so it seems, until these invisible enemies appear and start attacking you. And their comms are encoded, so it's hard to tell who sent them. There's a lot of intrigue surrounding who these enemies are and who sent them, but we'll talk more about the lore a bit later, I promise. Speaking of lore though, there's actually a combat log on a rafter above where I am right now, so don't forget to read it.
Is that a coral response? 621, get down and take a closer look. No doubt about it. This water, it contains faint traces of coral. Must have been an underground vein. BAWS was hiding a well all this time.
So, this final part of the mission alone took me an hour and a half to do without taking a hit, and eventually I settled on this combo, a assault rifle and a pulse blade. And I miss with the pulse blade like half the time. Honestly, maybe it was a mistake, but for the moments it does work, it's pretty great.
3 of them. No, 4. You're outnumbered. Pick them off one by one, 621.
So this final part was so tough. The laser beams that these enemies shoot have fantastic tracking. Like, sometimes you'll dodge perfectly and it'll just hit you. That's just the way it works. And on top of that, the enemies shooting them are hard to pin down. Like, if you don't kill them fast enough, they will just teleport to a completely random part of the map, and then you have to really rely on your directional markers and your scan to find them.
One unidentified mech down.
The hardest thing is honestly just killing one of them, and then every time you kill one, your chances of succeeding the mission without taking a hit just improve. Speaking of taking a hit, I don't know what happened there. My ACS got completely overloaded from nothing, but hey, took no damage, so run's still going. The entire time you're taking out all the mechs on the wall, this one bunny hopping one with a whip is chasing after you, and luckily it's mostly harmless, especially if you stay at range. Mostly. That one hurt. You can tell because I just kept the pause menu open instead of restarting again. But not to be deterred, I literally got here next attempt, used the pulse blade again, scared of the whip but had to risk it, and well, you'll see. Now, I know throughout this video I've probably said multiple times like, oh, this is harder than anything I'd done before, this was the hardest section yet. Still, all of it pales in comparison to the final mission of Chapter 1, which is Attack the Watchpoint.
Main system activating combat.
Up until this point, I'd never felt like any of the missions I attempted were impossible to no-hit. Like, difficult, yes, tedious, yes, but impossible? Definitely not. This mission, on the other hand, might just be impossible, and you'll see why.
Code 7-8, requesting backup. I can't get through to HQ.
Cavalry isn't coming. Wipe them out, 621.
In terms of the way I play, I meant to bring this up earlier, but the reason that I'm able to free aim and dodge and fly at the same time is because I have a controller that has those programmable back paddles at the back, and by binding those to ascend and dodge respectively, I'm able to free aim, dodge, ascend, and fire all my weaponry. And considering how much better it is in this game to play without target assist, in my opinion, you need one of these controllers to play at a higher level. Or maybe mouse and keyboard. I'm actually not sure how good that is. Anyway, back to the mission. My point is that, like, I'm trying my best to play out of my mind in this mission, and nothing so far you've seen is impossible. None of it. However, the next enemy, the next AC fight, is the closest thing to impossible that I've faced yet.
You see that? That's the Watchpoint's control center. The target's inside. Make your way in.
Attacking a Watchpoint. You're in Incorrigible, Handler Walter. How many of your dogs must I kill before you learn?
For a no-hit run, Sula is actually terrifying. You guys will remember, back in the arena, I had trouble with an enemy whose most threatening weapon really was just a burst machine gun, but almost every one of Sula's weapons is just a nightmare to deal with. First, the pulse gun that he has. It shoots out hundreds of bubbles, and these pan out widely the further they travel, and they do travel really far. Like, you can still get hit by this at mid-range. It's really terrifying. And then at long range, I'm pretty sure he has maybe the most threatening missile launcher available, which is the plasma missile launcher. This thing shoots 3 projectiles that track extremely well, and not only that, they will explode in an AoE burst, so I found no 100% reliable way to avoid these. My best bet was to fly, then dodge left and right, and this would only work if I was in the middle of the missile's trajectory. It wouldn't work at extremely long ranges, because then they would just explode on me instead. Thankfully, his last 2 weapons aren't that much of a threat. He has a bazooka that's fairly easy to avoid, although it's still pretty quick, and he has a missile launcher that shoots a projectile that sort of explodes along its trajectory after a short delay. So that's Sula, and here's what I tried in order to beat him. One of my best strategies was staying at extreme range from him and using the exact same plasma missiles that he does. By firing these at the edge of his range, I could pretty reliably do damage to him. The problem is that he has these as well, and if you want to avoid them reliably, the only way is to go closer to him and dodge through them at a mid-range in the air. However, if you go closer to him, he can hit you with his pulse gun, so that strategy fails as soon as you consider that. After a few hours of attempts, I shamelessly tried to find a place where I could glitch Sula. You can take him throughout the entire stage, so maybe something exists, but I couldn't find it. So eventually I just went back to trying to beat him legit. I came so close to beating him one time when I just fought him with the dual-wielded Ludlows and tried to outpace him and reflexively dodge everything, but you have to just play perfectly to do this, but this was possible. It was just within reach. I could do this, but then I gave up. I tried for so long, I didn't really feel like I had the time, and you know, the real reason I gave up here is because I realized I had stopped having fun. Every other mission until this point I was having a blast, but this was the first time where I really felt like this encounter comes down to so much chance rather than skill, and that just wasn't fun for me anymore. So, feeling kind of depressed, honestly, I got the best attempt I could and I headed into the Watchpoint. I destroyed the sensor, which was holding back this deluge of coral, and then I remembered the whole idea for this AC was that it's this perfect golden AC and the pilot hates getting it hit and hates getting it dirty, but now it's just been hit, it's just been doused in coral. So what if I make this failure a part of its story? What if I change the name of my AC to Tarnished and cover it in like rust and literally make it tarnished? So on top of being an Elden Ring reference, it's also just so fitting for this build. And after that I felt a lot better about all this. I was like, you know, I actually got hit by Sula on purpose. So in a better mood, I absolutely obliterated Bolteus. I had so much fun in this fight because it was so liberating just being able to take damage again and being aggressive and taking him out that way. And then I was browsing through all the new parts that you get for clearing Mission 11, and one of them I remembered was these hand-equipped missile launchers, and I started thinking, you know, I had really good success against Sula with 2 sets of missiles. What if I had 4? So at the start of this challenge, I laid out the rule that I'm not allowed to replay missions with newer parts that you get after that mission, but I broke that rule just so I could say that it is possible to defeat Sula without taking damage, because I did it, and it felt so good. As for Bolteus, is it possible to do Bolteus without taking damage? That was my next question, and honestly, as crazy as it is for me to say this, I think it is possible. I think someday John Rubicon the Chosen One, will find a way to do this. And if Chapter 1 isn't impossible, then perhaps the rest of the game isn't impossible either. And while it might not be me that achieves this, I think I've answered a part of the question I set out to answer at the start of this video. So, is it possible to beat Armored Core 6 without taking damage? I don't know. But I know it is possible to beat Chapter 1, so far, I think, yes, it is possible. But yeah, I hope that happens. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I had such a blast doing this playthrough, and right now, there's a good chance I'm live on Twitch, streaming my first playthrough of Armored Core 6. I've only completed the second chapter of the game, so everything beyond that is blind, and everything before the second chapter I'm going to upload a 100% playthrough up on my second channel, so if you missed the stream, you can check that out. I think that'll be entertaining as well. Other than that, please subscribe, there'll be tons more Armored Core 6 content to come. I'm loving this so far, and can't wait to see what's in store. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Enemy systems down. It's silent. Raven. You need rest. But first, a warning. The coral surge you were swept up in? That was just a glimpse. A premonition of the storm of flame that will burn Rubicon.